When you have a show that has gone as long as Ninjago, at some point there's an unavoidable hurdle you have to come across. Change. We discussed this last video with the redesigns of the characters, and I saw the redesigns as not only a necessary, but good worthwhile change of the brand and identity of Ninjago. But that's not the only thing that has changed about Ninjago. Whether subtly or not, the ninja as characters have all changed. Nia is no longer Samurai X, but now a water ninja. Lloyd is no longer a kid in a teenager's body. Jay is going to be guilty of war crimes. But most of these examples aren't negative. There's discussions to be had for sure, especially Nia, which I want to talk about in a future video. But a big thing about what makes these character changes so good is that they all happen naturally and are built up. We get to see the characters grow into the characters they become, so it feels like a natural character growth seeing them improve. As much as I hate Jay and Nia's feud, which I talked about 2 videos ago, I do think that after all of it, it made the moments with Jay and Nia finally getting along and Jay proposing for her to be his Yang really special. But there is one character that I feel like had a weird sudden change just out of nowhere. A character that felt like a main and distinct character and a fan favorite, but it felt like he got pushed to the side and changed completely. And that character is Kai. But Kai was the face of the Ninjago brand in its beginning years. That was of course until Lloyd took the mantle once he became the Green Ninja. But even then, he was still a big character, even taking Lloyd under his wing in possession. Kai was the hothead of the group. You get it! And because of that, he was a very impulsive and outright selfish character, letting his feelings influence his actions rather than giving it any thought. I mean, in Season 1, Episode 10, he almost let Lloyd die in order to get the Fang Blade, just because he was behind on getting his true potential, and he wanted to prove he was the Green Ninja, because he always felt like he was the best, and he only unlocked his true potential once he realized, oh wait, I'm supposed to be protecting people, not having a dick measuring contest. But I'm not saying this in a negative light, rather just, well, in a light, because his weaknesses are just that, weaknesses. But in those weaknesses led to both funny and great moments for his character. As much as it feels like Kai is so self-determined and stupidly trying to chase something rather than just focusing on what's in front of him, Kai did actually want to become the Green Ninja. Sure, all of the ninja did, but Kai was the only one that actually focused all his energy and felt like he was worthy. The rest of the ninja only wanted it because, in Jay's words,
like how good I'm gonna look in green?
But Kai was someone who genuinely thought he had what it took, and while you could see that as arrogant, you could also see it as determination. But the thing about it is, while Kai was obviously jealous that Lloyd was the Green Ninja, he set aside his emotions and did what he was meant to do. Protect the Chosen One, rather than be the Chosen One. But while he seemed okay with all of that, it was brought to light that he was still jealous he wasn't the Green Ninja, as after Zane's death in Rebooted, as he thought he should have been the one to defeat the Overlord, always feeling like he should have been someone important. He always thought he could have been the Green Ninja, and now this, always thinking about himself. After his little episode, episode 41 to be exact, I'm clever, he seemed to finally relax a bit on this as he swears to help protect Lloyd, even putting himself in harm's way once Lloyd gets possessed by Moro, showing that he completely moved on from his jealousy and focused all of that into being a good ninja, an older brother figure for Lloyd. It seemed that this was a really good way to phase Kai out of his selfishness and impulsiveness, and truly grew Kai as a character. So what the heck happened in Skybound? I think I am genuinely coming to the realization I am not liking Skybound. First the Jaya feud, and now this. Man. But yeah, Kai just acts like a straight up jerk this season. And I do know what they were going for. Really, I do. But I feel like it goes a little too far. Kai's selfishness gets the better of him because of all the tension the ninja are getting randomly after possession. And he's soaking it all up. So much so that Jay and Lloyd are standing up for his sister about how she's important to the team, and it turns to Kai and he just bounces off of it to smirk at the fans like, hey, Kai, you want to stand up for your sister, dude?
No one being more important than the other.
Important? No. Irresistible? Debatable.
And he just thinks that everything is all about him. How when Wu called him to go stop Klaus, he thought it was about his action figure line. And then later when they stop for Little Nelson, he takes a pic for his blog and doxes them. Oh, don't worry, it's not like there's a pirate genie trying to tear apart Ninjago to make the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Lego Edition. But even though I felt this was the worst for his character, the next season was probably the best, as Kai learns that there's actually more to the previous elemental masters of fire and water, their parents, as in they possibly could have been evil, as Crux tells Kai that both his parents fought alongside the Time Twins after the Serpentine Wars, and Kai quickly wants to get to the bottom of this and finds out that his parents' stamp was on the Vermilion Warriors' gear, not just the old gear, but the new gear. So not only were their parents alive, but still working for Achronix and Crux, which, while leading to one of the most funniest lines I've ever heard in a piece of media.
But here's the worst part. What does that mean for us? Are we destined to turn evil?
Not only do I think the aspect of Kai's view of his morale just disappearing once he found out his parents are evil is just so funny to me, but also show, don't tell! Anyway, regardless, this leads Kai to quickly put an end to Rei's assistance, without much room to question whether Rei was actually helping them or had another motive. Bad guy says my dad is evil? Surely he didn't like force them or anything. Surely he's just building the armor and has drinks with Crux and Achronix on the weekends at the villain bar. Nah, but for real, I'm actually fine with this. As while this may seem dumb at first, I once again see this as an act of Kai's impulsiveness getting the better of him. Everything makes sense to him, and Wu's too sick to get his side of the story, so I see this as a way of a quick acceptance, trying to skip to the acceptance part of the stages of grief. Quickly finding Rei, seeing him building Vermilion armor, and quickly killing him without giving him a chance to speak his piece, just to get things over with, to not leave himself vulnerable in the event that them being villains was in fact true. Then when it's found out Maya was alive, something Kai didn't even consider, he freezes up and is even happy to see her, before quickly forcing him to snap out of it and go right back to being hard-headed, which then gives them time to explain everything, and they all make up. Like I said, I quite like this arc, given Kai's character, more importantly, his weakness. But maybe Kai would start working on his hot-headedness going forward. And you know what? Maybe he did. Because now, Kai is just kind of boring. And you may expect me to just jump straight from Season 7 to the Wild Brain era. Maybe the new writers in the 11-minute format had a hand in messing up Kai's character. But no, this change just suddenly happened in Season 8 Sons of Garmadon with the same writers and everyone involved before all the changes with the Wild Brain era. Just suddenly starting with this season, Kai he just doesn't feel like Kai anymore. Kai doesn't feel like a hothead or even an impulsive character. He just kind of feels like a guy. The most Kai we get in Season 8 is him hesitating at the thought of losing his powers when helping out Lloyd. I don't know what people's stance is on this, but I do think that this is his character, as he's not sure whether just losing his powers when Garmadon is on the loose is the greatest idea, and in my opinion, was actually a good thing to think, and it makes sense that Kai would think it. Doesn't really matter in the end because this doesn't come back in literally anyway, but sure. Hunted and March of the Oni is pretty much the exact same, but after the Wild Brain era, it's just bad. Let me ask you something. Can you tell me one thing that Kai did in the Wild Brain era before Crystallized? Like, seriously, think. One thing that Kai contributed to the overall narrative of the season. You're struggling, aren't you? Like, off the top of my head, Kai loses his powers in Season 11 and has a pretty cool moment when he gets them back, and has some decently funny moments because he feels like he's basically a god to the people of the Netherrealm. He gets his powers fully back at the very end in a pretty cool part, and that's it before Crystallized, which I'll talk about later. But seriously, Kai contributes basically nothing to the team during the Wild Brain seasons, which is especially given the fact that the whole 11-minute episodes were supposed to give the writers more freedom to do more things, but yet they do basically nothing with Kai. But not only does he not do anything, he's just kind of dumb. Kai was always dumb to a certain aspect. After all, when you are a character that acts completely out of impulsiveness, you're bound to look like an idiot. But I guess the writers toned down his hot-headedness aspect and directed his impulsiveness into being dumb, and sometimes just a plain jerk, and not the kind of jerk he was in the previous seasons. He was a jerk, of course, but it never felt like it was without reason, like being the first person to call someone out for something. But like in these seasons, he's just a jerk for literally no reason, mainly to Jay. I don't know what Jay did to Kai apparently off screen, but he must have done something because Kai just absolutely treats Jay like mud on his shoe. It feels like every chance he gets, he will treat Jay like the scum of the earth, and it just feels so forced and out of proportion. And I know what you're saying in your head, bro doesn't know what teasing each other is. And believe you me, I know, in friend groups, there's always the bully member of the group. And I'm going to call out the person live in my personal friend group that is that role.
Wait. Whoa.
It's me!
So I know that being teased is just the way of life, and it's a staple of every friend group, especially when you're truly being a klutz. I'm okay. But what I also know is there's a time and a place for it, and there's times when it's not. So while there are moments when Kai's making fun of Jay is fine and warranted, and heck, even funny,
You're both too valuable to risk. You should be someone expendable, like Jay.
there are times where it's just plain awkward and kind of rude. Say, and I'm just making this up here, maybe a moment where your friend saves your life and you turn right around and say, that guy had to save me just now. That guy. That kind of sounds rude, doesn't it?
That happened!
Jay had to save me just now. Jay!
Huh. That's a weird way of saying thanks.
I felt Jay's pain there, and I'm totally with him. Jay literally saves Kai from being torched by giant snakes, and in response, makes fun of Jay, saying that Jay, the loser one, apparently, had to save him. I mean, what a guy that Jay, but Kai just spits on him. Like, what the heck? I think what makes it worse is that Jay is literally Kai's future brother-in-law, so it kind of just feels extra weird that he's spitting on Jay so much in front of Nia. In fact, he literally says whoever likes Jay has a problem. In front of Nia!
I told you, they're wackos. Anyone who likes Jay that much can't be normal. What did you say?
And don't get me wrong, that was funny, like genuinely it was. But it really does highlight just how strange this all feels. And weirdly, I can't really pinpoint why this is such a problem. I can't figure out from a writer's perspective why Kai acts like this. At least with the Jay and Nia love triangle, it seemed to actually go somewhere, even if it was unwarranted. But Kai and Jay just feel like a weird sense of comic relief that doesn't do anything. Now, you know the weird thing? I think Kai's best characterization in the Wild Brain era is Crystallized. Yeah, Crystallized, probably the most controversial season in the show, actually gave Kai somewhat of a character in this. After Nia becomes one with the sea, we have a similar thing to Tournament of Elements, but we see a much different response to a ninja's death, even if the person was much closer to Kai. Zane's death brought out the worst in Kai, bringing out his jealousy and the grieving process. But because Kai has that in check, he more so just does literally anything to get his mind off his sister, and teaching kids to kill on sight. Anyway, people seem to get a little bit upset about this. Why does Jay have such a grief beard and going insane, while Kai doesn't seem to care about Nia being gone? Well, it's not that he doesn't care, but it's just that he wants to move on as quickly as possible. He doesn't have much of a reason to hold on to the emotions of losing someone close to him. Like I already said, it spiraled him out of proportion with Zane, but it wasn't even really about Zane. It was about himself at his core. But since he learned from that, he doesn't feel as strong emotions. So he just wants to do something with his life rather than just moping around and missing Nia. Which is why he gets into a confrontation with Jay once he goes crazy, because he's trying his best to move on from this and actually focus on something bigger, while Jay can't seem to get his head out of the water. This is very in character for both Kai and Jay, especially at this point in time, and I actually like this aspect of it. And just like with Maya and Ray, as soon as it's revealed they can save Nia, he snaps himself out of it and saves his sister now that he knows he can. And in Dragon's Rising, it does seem like Kai is becoming somewhat more of a character now. Character-wise, he's still pretty much nothing like he was in his older seasons, but I mean, come on, he's still Kai. Even if he's not the Kai I remember, he's still the Master of Fire, and hey, he finally did something important at the end of Season 2 Part 1 of Dragon's Rising. So he finally got his moment after all, which is pretty cool. I just hope that once Jay and Kai finally reunite, maybe they'll fix up Jay and Kai's relationship.
He lost his memory. It's like he's a completely different person.
Well, in Jay's case, that might be an improvement.
Okay, this is probably one of the most infuriating 12 seconds of my life. Kai literally hears that his sister had to fight her boyfriend and that he's got amnesia, and he still uses this to make fun of Jay. Still! I saw someone on Twitter say, "Oh, Kai's lighting up the mood for Nia." How? This is awful! Seriously though, I hope that Kai and Jay can have a more healthy relationship, should Jay be a ninja again. And I really hope that Kai does feel some remorse for Jay once we get into that confrontation. But we'll have to see, I guess. Anyway, what do you think about Kai's character? Do you think it's not as good as it used to be, or did you even notice a difference? Let me know what you think. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 2 Part 2 comes out, and there are some videos I've been stewing up in my brain since the episode's leaked. So just make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next month.